Welcome to the Woodshed. I'm Garrick, and today I want to talk about my roof rack, my traction boards, my tent setup on this 4Runner, and I also wanted to talk about a sick giveaway I want to do. I'll talk about it a little bit later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. And oops, that's broken. Okay, so let's get into it. One of the things in my opinion that changes the total look of the 4Runner, or I mean any vehicle really, is gonna be the roof rack. When I was shopping for them, I immediately fell in love with the Goby rack. The only problem with the Goby rack, while they are super nice, just the cost. I think they're worth the money from what I've seen, but it was a little bit out of my price range. My price range was like $1,000 or less. So I was looking at more at, you know, the Prinsu rack, somewhere around that price range. Some of the other similar Victory 4x4, those other brands. I'd actually never heard of this brand that I ended up buying. My friend Brandon, who actually runs Taco Vinyl, if you haven't checked him out, go ahead and check him out. Over on Taco Vinyl's website, they've got all the sickest like decals, aftermarket grills, I mean custom painted stuff, like ridiculous. I actually got my grill from there. It's got the color matched painted Toyota letters in the front, the Pro Grill in there, and I love it. If you're watching Toyota stuff and you haven't looked at Taco Vinyl, I don't know. So Brandon showed me the rack that he had put on his Tacoma. I thought it was really cool because it was a similar style to the Prinsu rack, which I liked, but I feel like everybody has it. And I know what you can say to that. Dude, you want to be different, but you have a white 4Runner? I know, they all look the same, but I want to be as different as I can. So I went with the Uptop Overland roof rack. I've already mounted a light bar on it. That's one of the options. You can do a cutout in the front for a 40-inch light bar, or they have this custom cutout for like the Baja Designs light bar in it. I've already mounted the traction boards that I'm going to talk about from Open Road four-wheel drive. I was looking at Max Tracks originally, but I didn't really want to spend, I don't know, what are they, $300 for 2 pieces of plastic? The design is kind of a white label thing. Honestly, at some point, if you can afford it, buy it. If you can't, then there's other options out there that are gonna do just as good, in my opinion. I'm not gonna go out of my way to spend a ton of money on something that really isn't gonna get used all that much. I've also mounted a rooftop tent on the rack. The only issue that I've had with the rooftop tent on there is a little bit of rattle. There's 2 crossbars in the middle of the tent that aren't actually bolted down with the tent. I just solved that with a little bit of some little strips of rubber that I had laying around. I actually got the tent used, so I didn't have the hardware that came with it, but this local company out here in Boise, if you're from the Boise area, over by the Costco in Boise, across the street, there's a shop called Talus, I think that's how you pronounce it, Talus Overland. One of the guys over there helped me out with the hardware. He hooked me up with exactly what I needed. They have tents, awnings. I think they build their own overlanding enclosures for the back of Tacomas and stuff like that. Like, they've got all kinds of stuff there. So if you're into overlanding stuff, definitely check them out. Talus Adventure Gear, thanks for hooking me up. Building the roof rack was super easy. It had instructions that I printed out online. A PDF instructions that had like pictures and explanations of everything, and it was all super straightforward, super easy. It was definitely something that I could do without ever having put one together before. The only weird part that I had happen was, so there's 4 mounting points on the 4Runner for the roof rack. Each of those mounting points has 2 bolt holes. Each of those mounting points gets 2 spacers from Uptop Overland. So there was 8 total spacers. They're just little aluminum spacers. 6 of those spacers were perfect, but 2 of them were a smaller diameter and it actually didn't fit the bolt through it. I actually ended up having to drill those spacers out myself. I just put them in a vise and drilled them out, but for somebody that doesn't have access to a ton of hand tools or power tools, that might have been super frustrating and maybe a long wait for replacement parts. I just took care of it myself, but I could see that'd be frustrating for somebody else. Another thing was the silicone you have to spray into the area to cover those bolt holes and make sure that water doesn't get in. I've seen other companies that they actually make little rubber inserts that go in there. I feel like Uptop should at least be doing that part instead of making people make their own out of silicone. Definitely something they should be offering on something that's almost $1,000. I think those are just my 2 nitpicks about it, and it's really easy to nitpick things, especially when they're mass produced, and those things are maybe just things that I nitpick about that nobody else would care about. I think the rack is super unique. I think it's definitely strong enough for anything I'd try to put it through. I just love the way it looks, like the shape of the front of it. Also, this is a big deal. In some of the other roof racks, as soon as you put it on and drive it for the first time with some of those other roof racks, a lot of times there's a ton of wind noise. I don't know what it is with the Uptop Overland roof rack shape. When I put it on, I couldn't notice any more wind noise, and that's crazy. And even with my rooftop tent, like I can barely hear anything, and it's, so far, hasn't bothered me at all. I really like it, and I'm glad I went with Uptop Overland. Overall, I think it's been an awesome purchase, and I'm really excited to have it going forward. Now I want to talk about my giveaway. So, I've got these red recovery boards. It's the same ones that I have, except I have the tan ones. I'm actually doing a giveaway with these, so if you check out my Instagram, I'll have it linked below. It started out as my car photography Instagram, but it's kind of morphed into my 4Runner / car Instagram page. I don't really know what it is right now, but I'm doing a giveaway on that page for these. So make sure you're subscribed here and you're following my Instagram page. Those will be 2 of the qualifications to get you entered into the giveaway for those. Oh, I didn't even talk about this. I redid my office here. I was getting really tired of every time I cut wood, having all the sawdust go onto my computer. So I actually started out by saying, oh, I've got some sheets of plywood. I'll just put the plywood up between this shelf and my little workbench area. Then I was like, oh, I've got to make something to support those. And so I ended up building a frame out of 2x6s. And the frame got bigger and bigger. I ended up building an entire wall, doing OSB on both sides, and I ended up just building an entire wall and painting it. It looks really nice, but I definitely wasn't planning on doing that. So I'm gonna like it a lot better to not have a ton of sawdust all over my computer. There's a reason why my wife calls this the nerd cave. Also, can't go wrong with an American flag. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.